Hi.
Is it just me or
Good to see you. Yeah. How are you doing?
Pranav? I'm not sure if it's just me, but I think your voice is breaking. Can the others just confirm once? Are they able to hear Pranav clearly? Please do give a thumbs up. Okay, so it is definitely at my end. All right, that's good then. I'm just happy that yes, everyone else is able to hear Pranav. But all right, since we are here, welcome Pranav. It is so good to finally host you after so long.
I know it's been a while and really looking forward to our chat today.
Same here, Pranav, and a warm welcome to everyone who's joining us in the audience. This is going to be a very special session for me, at least, because Pranav has been somewhat of a mentor to me personally in life as well. And not just that, he's also done. He's had the entire spectrum. He's seen the entire spectrum of finance, right? From what it means to be in traditional finance, where his last role was the CFO of a very big company, to right now leading a lot of ventures in the decentralized finance world. So, Pranav, I'm super excited to have you here with us today.
Likewise. It's been an exciting few years, so would love to talk about it.
Awesome. So, I think we'll get started off with one of the questions that we get, that at least I've seen a lot of people ask, which is what are the career options for people interested in finance beyond just that of investment banking?
So, decentralized finance is actually bringing traditional finance, but taking out the intermediary as a trusted intermediary. So,
Hmm.
what we are doing is using technology to create a framework where we can do the same transactions like borrowing, lending, payments, etc., without having to rely on an intermediary who can potentially permission, get hacked, or basically know your KYC.
Hmm.
So the idea is to disintermediate the traditional finance space.
Absolutely.
So all the roles that are there as part of traditional finance will be there on DeFi as well.
Makes sense. So basically, anything that requires us to transact with another human being is exactly what the world of finance does for us, right, Pranav?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have finance for me is essentially omnipresent because whatever we do, we transact value, right? So any transfer of value or store of value or generation or creation of value will be a financial transaction in some form or format.
Absolutely. So, and this brings me to like the next question, which is that a lot of people believe that in order for us to get into the world of finance, I mean, I had this when I was in my first year of MBA as well, but I always had this belief that you need to have a very good understanding of accounting. But really, finance and accounting are two very different things. So why don't you take us through that, Pranav? Like, what are the skills that are needed in finance versus that in accounting?
So I think finance is an umbrella concept, and accounting would be a subset of the financial spectrum, an important one. Just like we cannot do without knowing the accounts, right? Even if you grab a lunch with 5 friends, at the end you want to decide how to pay for it. That is also in some way accounting, right?
Yep.
And obviously you need to file your taxes, or you need to run a business, or you need to pay your bills. So all of that requires some form of accounting or bookkeeping, as we would say. So accounting, the uh, the process or the activity is actually a subset of finance, and I think it's a super important subset. As anybody who wants to be a finance professional has to understand accounting. You need not be an accountant, but you have to be able to understand and speak to one at their level.
Very true. So that kind of brings me to the segue to introduce you, because I know you've worked across the spectrum. You've worked with people in the accounts department you worked with people in the strategy side as well. So, Pranav, why don't you give us a brief walkthrough instead of me telling people what all you've done? Why don't you tell people about how your career has been right from the start till date?
Sure, sure. No, would love to do that. So I basically did my BBA equivalent, which is called the BMS from Bombay. That was back in like what feels like ages back now. I graduated 2004, and after that I ran my own business for 2 years, which was education, old school coaching classes for BMS students. So I was actually we turned around and taught our students, our juniors, for their exams next year. And then went to IIM Indore. IIM Indore, I sort of focused on strategy and finance as my core areas. And after that, I joined SR, which is a large Indian MNC, as a management trainee, and in 2008, and been with SR since 2008 up to November 2022, which is last year when I moved to foundership, which is my current role. And through those 14 years, I essentially worked across uh, finance teams on the mining side. I worked across M&A, business development, did a whole setup for one of our steel businesses to sell on steel online. And most recently, I ran the metals and mining vertical in the US, based in the US as the CFO and director for that company. So I believe I've been lucky and privileged to have had a very wide exposure, both in terms of uh, work and in terms of geographies. And also, a long career in the same company gives you a lot of confidence and trust within the system. So that helped my career a lot. And right now, what I'm doing is something I have deep passion for, and therefore I decided to sort of do the cliched make your passion your profession, and went for a Web3 job basically as a venture arm for a foundership, for a Web3 accelerator called Foundership. And here also, I do a lot of investing, a lot of diligence, building a thesis for Web3 as a whole. So for me, my core skill sets have always been strategy, business, and sort of finance around, fundraising, deployment of funds, investments, treasury management. So all of these things are what I like and do, and I've sort of done that over the last 15 years in my career.
That's amazing. I mean, I know a lot of people, even I used to have this thought that finance is just about crunching numbers, sitting at the back end, and, not really being at the forefront of business. But exactly what you've mentioned is, you've done all of that too. You've set up an entirely new vertical, you've figured out new channels of distribution for a product as boring as steel. So finance definitely has a lot of different angles to it that I don't think most of us know of. So thank you so much, Pranav, for taking us through that. Right now, we do have a listener in with us, Kimish Meena, and I'm really excited to have you on stage, Kimish. Welcome, Kimish. Do you have a question for Pranav?
Hi, Kimesh.
All right, we shall circle. Yes, Kimish, go on. Is it just me, Pranav? Are you able to hear Kimish?
No, no, I can't.
All right, Kimish, I would request you to kindly check your mic and circle back again. Meanwhile, if anyone else has any other questions for Pranav, we would be happy to have you on stage and have Pranav answer those questions.
Yeah,
Yes,
can you audible me?
yes, Kimish, you are
Yeah, we can hear
audible.
you now.
Go ahead. What's your question for
And
Pranav?
how actually like interview basis regarding other portfolio like a daily basis job profile and like finance regarding.
All right. That's an interesting question, Pranav. So I'm sure that you have, in your 15 years as a finance professional, you must have interviewed a lot of candidates. So why don't you tell us what is it that you're looking for in a candidate when you're interviewing them for a finance role?
actually. Pranav, sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Okay. I thought you were saying something. So, for me, personally, what I've always done is two things. I believe that we need to assess the ability to do whatever that role involves. And of course, we need to check the person's attitude. So, that is sort of very broad and I'm guessing super cliched. Two domains that I check for. But for me, as an interviewer, I've always checked on the attitude part. I think the capability part is something that I can check more from the CV. So if somebody is at an interview level, then they would have already gone through the basic filters of being capable on paper. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the interview. And generally, when you discuss a person's history, their likes, where they want to go in their career, those are the questions to me which sort of, help me align whether they want to be a part of our team and whether they should be a part of our organization or not. So for me, I feel cultural fit alignment is super important. And the sort of alignment is not necessarily on work, right? My alignment is more on, hey, where do you see yourself, like, in 5 years within my company? But beyond that, what's your career path, right? Can I help you progress your career? And in that case, please come on, right? And that I feel is very important because then the person values their opportunity more. Absolutely. Because they see it fitting into their career plan. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Thanks for giving me this suggestion for me and like a future regarding. But for now, first of all, I can you just one question only and like.
Yeah, hello, go ahead, Kamesh. Yeah, what was your question?
Yeah, actually, I'm currently working with a team leader profile in collection process like payment or finance private limited company. But I want to switch a job, but I have some facing problem like English communication skills. But I am somebody I like I am trying to like 4 to 5 companies interview basis and assistant manager profile regarding. But I was rejected in like 4 to 5 times in interview. Like I have taken a feedback in your sufficient or your knowledge are sufficient, but English communications are weak. But it is my weakness point. But I have not improved my English communication. So please give me suggestions.
All right. I think right now communication is one aspect that is not something we're going to be covering here. But I do want to pick up on one point that you had mentioned previously, Pranav, which was on if the CV is good enough. I'm going to trust that your technical skills are there as well. So can you take us through some of those things that you look for in a CV?
Yeah, so I will generally, and I generally look for brands because I'll tell you what, when people apply, a good candidate applies for a role, especially in things like finance or anything at a leadership level or a senior level, then they already have the keywords that the role requires, right? So whether you're applying for a managerial entry level job or for the CFO's job, you will always use the keywords that are required for that CV. So that doesn't help. So what helps to me is basically, do I know any of the places they've worked at? And do I know any of the institutions they've studied at? So I could be accused of being elitist over here, but basically, knowing a brand well helps me identify the person. And a lot of times I've seen great folks who didn't have the best educational brand, but they found themselves because they hustled their way in, and they found themselves into great work brands, right? Like they worked in great companies. And I think that is what is important. I definitely want to see that people were part of winning teams. So one thing I look for always is there something actionable, action oriented that is there in their CV? Like, hey, I drew, I managed a treasury of $5 million, or I completed so many deals in M&A, or I sort of did I handle the accounting for $100 million sheet company. I want to sort of see if those numbers are there because anybody who mentions those numbers means that they would have done it and they are open to being asked questions on it, which is the chances of faking it are very low.
True. So coming back to Kimesh's question over there, which was on he was on the collection side of things. So if he can actually put it on his CV that this is the amount that he's helped recover for the business. This is the and that obviously has a direct impact on the bottom line, right? So I think that would be something that would interest a potential recruiter, Pranav.
Exactly. So for Kimesh, I would be like, I would try to find the three North Star metrics, which would be percentage collections, number of companies or number of individuals whom you've interacted with, and the team size that you've led. If you're a team leader, then the team size is super important, right? So I would say led a 10-member team in quarterly collections of 5 crore rupees and over the last 3 years, and handling a loan book of 5,000 clients or whatever that number is, right? So something of that will absolutely put you on the top of the stack. But one thing, Kimesh, I want to say is that you're very young and you're obviously early on in your career. Not working on your English, when you know the problem, you should solve it. If you did not know the problem, I agree there is a limitation over there. But now that you've already identified that your communication is one of the reasons why the company didn't hire you or multiple companies didn't hire you, then absolutely what you should do is improve your communication skills, at least your spoken English, right? Even if your written English is not very great, we have softwares like AI today. But if you build on your spoken English, that will give you a lot of confidence.
Absolutely. That is a sage advice right there. Thank you so much for that, Pranav. And now I would like to welcome on stage Tawfiq Qureshi. Hi, Tawfiq. Why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, and ask your question for Pranav?
Hello.
Yes,
Am I
Tawfiq.
audible?
Absolutely.
Hi, yes, you are.
Yeah. Hi, Pranav. Hi, Kamalika. So, myself, I'm into IT guy. So, I used to handle the things, SAP, analytics, clouds, and all that. Okay. So, my question is, I've been working with the tool with the SAP. Am I audible clearly, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I am handling the tool with SAP. So it's a tool of kind of a consolidation and business planning, where we require we used to consolidate the balance sheets and all that. It's a tool from the SAP. So my question is like I'm from the engineering background. If you can see my profile and all that, okay. So I'm from engineering background. I have around 8 years of experience. Technically, I'm very much I'm killing it. Like technically side, I'm killing it. But when it comes to interacting with the business, so there I lose my some of the confidence. It's because I'm not from the finance background, and even if we if you go for the interaction with the CFOs and CFO meetings and all that, board meetings and all that, at that time I don't get the that I can't gel up with the people who are in the board, like who are from the CA background, who are from the MBA finance background. So can you suggest me, like, is it good for me to do the MBA, or like how can I grow from the in finance perspective, like so that I can gel up with them, like I can understand their business slangs easily. That is the question.
That's an amazing question. In fact, I would want to rephrase it slightly, Pranav, for you, because
Sure.
I know there are a lot of people from, especially from like an engineering background, who've not had anything to do with finance for like miles and miles away. For these sort of folks, and a lot of people do have an interest in finance, though they just simply don't know where to get started from, and they find some of the concepts in finance to be really intimidating simply because there is
Exactly.
so much of jargon involved.
So
So
Also, the thing is, like, I've been involved in this whole financing tool and business information, business technologies, and all, almost all 8 years of experience. So even though I am not able to, crack those or like I'm not able to understand from the where I need to start. Like,
Correct. So
do
that's
I need to
exactly the
go for the
question that I
business?
have for you, Pranav, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
for people who are from an outside background, from a more technical sort of a background, what would be your suggestion? How do they get started with getting the house in order, just getting their basics cleared when they want to work in the domain of finance?
So to me, I think Tawfiq, it's a great thought process, right? I should say that I appreciate your thought process as a young person who's hit a particular point in their career where they're very comfortable with their technical skills and their domain knowledge, and you want to grow, and you believe that some business is important to learn the theory. So I believe in always knowing the theory. Therefore, there is no workaround. I know it's the answer maybe you didn't want to hear, but there is no workaround to theory. We have to learn the theory for any work or any profession or any passion, hobby also that we have, right? Like if you learn a guitar, they'll typically tell you learn how to read the notes. So my only point is that you'll have to figure out a way to do this. The first thing you should do is before you sign up for a course and commit to investing time and money, use YouTube. I feel YouTube is the biggest learner, and Kamalika, me and a few friends have always been big advocates of using YouTube for self-learning. And then you know whether this is something you want in your professional space, or is this something that you want to grow as a hobby or only as an area of interest because it is part of your work life. So then it's one thing to know, and if that is the intention, not to move to a finance career, but intention is to be able to converse with a CFO or a board member or a head of accounts, then I would suggest reading up on the latest news surrounding the markets, surrounding investments, and that way you will be able to read. So when you read, you will find three words like you will find a word called pre-money valuation, post-money valuation.
Yeah.
So you will Google pre-money, post-money kya hota hai. And that is when you will learn what is pre-money valuation, post-money valuation. So those are the kind of terms you will have to figure out from what you are interacting in your daily day. But that does not need you to do a theory. But if you want to move to a finance career, then I absolutely recommend getting an education, whether it's a part-time, full-time is of course a personal choice and has several factors to consider. But then I would say you should go for that. So that is sort of the two-part, right? If you want to do professional, go for a education so you have a structured learning. If you don't want to use it as a profession, but you want to use it to build on your profile and your connections and your network, then self-learn through YouTube and read a lot about the space so that every word you don't know, you Google about it and read it on YouTube and listen to people's explanations on YouTube.
Tofik, that was a gem of an advice right over there. I hope you got your question answered over there.
yeah, Kamalika. Yeah, thank you, Pranav. Yeah, I will sure definitely work on this. So let's start from today only.
All right. I'm glad
100%.
we got you motivated enough to start right away. All the best, Tofik, for that. And with that, we're towards the end of some of the questions that I had planned for you, Pranav. I just want to understand, what does a typical day in the life of a CFO look like?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, I would have brought it up if you hadn't, because what happens is in our CVs, and if you ask me, hey Pranav, what did you do in your career? I'll give you top line things, and it looks like, hey, this is a great job. I want this job because I also want to travel a lot, meet new people every day, do M&A deals. But actually, that is only 20%, right? I call it the chicken in your curry, right? So when you order a chicken masala, butter masala, whatever, you only get 5 pieces of chicken and the rest is the gravy, right? So what you do every day is you fill your stomach with the gravy and you only enjoy those 5 pieces of chicken. So same way, the day-to-day is super boring. The day-to-day is basically attending tons of meetings, making sure all compliances are in check. There will always be somewhere a fire in terms of whether somebody wants money, so you don't have working capital, or you have budgets being overshot by operating teams, or there is a collections issue in terms of payments from customers. So there will be some amount of firefighting. So I feel that if I were to describe my average day across several months, then a large part of my day goes in meetings and sort of figuring out those fires, right? The meetings are around the firefighting, whatever is going on. And the rest of it is generally the planned. We'll typically divide our week into various streams, and we'll have, like, weekly accounting meeting, weekly credits, accounts payable meeting, weekly accounts receivable meeting. So you'll whatever is your domain, you'll typically divide those, and then you'll obviously have meetings with your CEO, your board, planning, etc., MIS. So all of those will be the ones which will take up 90% of your time, and then once in a while you'll do the cool looking stuff which you put on your CV.
All right, and that brings me to my last question for you. What is the one thing that you absolutely did not like about, your day-to-day job, and the one thing that you absolutely loved and wish there was more of?
Absolutely hated the hated part is very easy because you obviously don't like it, so you remember it always. Is the taxation part of it, because that is the worst, right? You have to do it. There is no way around, and at the same time, it is something where you have very little value addition because it's going to it is what it is, right? But at the same time, something always has an issue. There is always an issue with taxation, either compliance or reporting or something of that sort. So that is so I would say tax and audit to an extent are the parts I never liked. And the part I loved was always sort of, doing the strategic finance elements, like you can say fundraising for a new project or fundraising for a new M&A. So these are the things which I always loved, and I think those were the best parts. In my current job, which is more on the investing side as a venture arm, I think over here what I love the most is that I really like the fact that I get to meet new projects and talk to new founders every day, and that sort of the width of what I'm doing is amazing, and I really love that part.
Awesome. So that brings us to the close of today's session. I've been recording, so I know that I'm going to be revisiting this entire recording because Pranav's dropped a lot of gems, not just for what you would want to do if you wanted a career in finance, but in general, if you're starting out and you're feeling stuck somewhere. I think this was one very, very amazing session. Thank you so much, Pranav, and I would love to host you again just to talk about DeFi because I know that is your passion area. And thanks again for all the gems that you've given us today.
100%. We should do one session only on careers in crypto, because we would, as an industry for Web3, we definitely want more people coming in, and the more talented, experienced folks we get in, the space will grow better and faster.
Absolutely.
So I think that's something which, as a Web3 person now, I want to absolutely promote and, shout out and say that please consider a career in Web3, whether it's blockchain, whether it's any DeFi, whether it's something else, NFTs, metaverse, whatever it is. But please consider a career in Web3 as well as one of your options in whatever domain expertise you have.
Absolutely. In fact, I already see a lot of thumbs up. So we should plan for, the next time that you are available. Thank you again so much. And thank you to everyone joining in. Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, guys.